Okay, I'm working with about a 4-ounce leather here, oiled leather for this particular project. Uh, I'm just probably going to use the shears to cut this stuff because it's pretty thin, pretty flexible, and it tends to drag a bit if you try to use the knife on it. I might wind up using something else for these straps. Not sure I like this for these straps. But I'm going to cut a couple of them out right now, and if I have to change later, I will. Now, from a historic context, I don't know exactly what term you use for this type of bag. This is a black powder bag, basically a shooter's pouch, a long hunter's pouch. There's a lot of different names for it. And I've heard it from the buckskinning crowd called the Possibles bag, but I haven't found any historical context for that to describe this particular type of bag. That seems to be something that popped up in the 1970s and has just kind of wandered around in the reenacting community for a while, to call them Possibles bags. But whatever you want to call it, it's a leather bag to hold the supplies for the care and feeding of a muzzle loading rifle. Now, got a whole stack of pieces here. About time to start figuring out how to assemble them into a bag. Now, a lot of the assembly of this bag is just going to be straight up sewing it together on the sewing machine. But for the strap, I have this sash that I wove together with finger weaving in a previous video. I decided that needed to be just a separate video and not part of this one. And I'm going to put that together into a strap to put onto the bag. And I'm going to do it in a way that it could be used on a lot of other bags as well. So I'm taking my pieces that I cut for straps, and I'm going to skive off the end of them. Not absolutely necessary to do so, but I think it makes the transition nicer. So I do it, just to have a smoother end on everything. And this leather is a little thin, so I'm going to be lining it with another piece of it so it's not too stretchy. As you can see, it's got a good bit of stretch here on it when I'm trying to skive things. And I've got these, they're just oversized pieces that I've cut the glue on the back to line it up. Like I said, if you're using a thicker piece of leather, this wouldn't necessarily be something you'd have to do. But I'm going to line these up where it actually hangs off a little bit, and then all of our stuff tapers down to a good transition. And just kind of glue that on there and then stitch around it. Make our strap a little more substantial that way. Since this is a oily leather, it's not going to be easy to work with on finishing the edges, but I'll probably just sand it a little bit and then hit it with some Toconol or something and slick it up. But that's going to be after we get everything assembled step on this one. Now I have two each of these pieces, kind of a little acorn sort of shape, teardrop acorn shape. And then this one with the strap end on it, that's going to not fold back, but actually wind up on this other piece as well. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know what, I don't have to skive this because it's going to be folded over and covered. So I'm not going to bother with that one. We'll leave that full thickness. So let's go ahead and just mark out some stitching grooves on here. So I've got a line to follow when I go to stitch it together down on the machine. Of course, this can be hand stitched as well. Now I don't want to go stitching straight across right here and making a weak spot on this piece. So instead of just running a line straight across there, I'm going to bring it down in some curves and make kind of a heart shape out of these stitch lines. And I think I've got that on my pattern piece, wherever my pattern piece is. Yeah, I marked it on this one instead, but yeah, it's part of the plan is to do stitch lines like this. And then we got some holes to punch as well. You could use your pattern piece to mark this in, or you could just freehand it in like I'm about to do. As aforementioned, got some holes to punch. Have some sizing holes here on the strap piece. Just gonna mark those and punch them with a number 4 punch. And we got some holes to punch here on our I can never remember if this is a chape or a billet piece. The part that holds the buckle. It's going to take a bit more than that. There we go. And some number 2 holes, 1/8 inch holes, for a couple rivets in there. And we're going to use the holes I just punched to go ahead and mark some here on this strap. Let's go ahead and use one of those to mark and punch a hole through this sort of acorn shaped piece. Should be right above where I've got those stitch lines marked. There we go. That'll help me line everything up later if I'm able to rivet those together. And same thing on these. Alright, ran these through a sewing machine real quick. Just to hold them together, make them into a nice solid strap. It adds some strength against stretching as well to stitch them up. But anyway, so there's probably better ways of doing this. What I have found that works for me is to just use some masking tape. Cut myself off a chunk of it there. I'll stick that down. Now if you stretch this strap and kind of compress it together, you can sort of force it into a narrower spot. That's what I want to do for this. And we'll sort of wrap the tape around. And we got ourselves a narrower spot of our strap there. So it all kind of tapers into that. Then, cut right through the tape and the yarn. And you got something that holds the end together then. Alright, I don't know if I got this on camera when I did the other side. I wasn't paying attention like I should be. Bad YouTuber. But anyway, make sure that I get these on camera. I'm going ahead doing it again. So I've got the buckle set into this piece. And I'm going to go ahead and rivet that on there. Real simple process. Got the skived end of the strap is going to be hidden up underneath all that. And yeah, then our little strap there, as mentioned before, is going to buckle and go just like that. And you can see it on the end of the strap here. I haven't got it stitched yet. But like I said, this is kind of how you would make ends on reins to attach them to a bridle. And once we got the buckle on, well, let's go ahead and put this part together. Pop a few pieces together real quick. And like I said, just what I did on the other one. Go ahead and punch another hole down here to hold the strap in and hold it all together a little bit better. Yeah, about there. I'll add that hole into my pattern pieces afterwards. But that should make life a little bit easier to line everything up. Because then all you have to do is make sure it doesn't twist on you in the machine, rather than worrying about them sliding around as well. Probably not as big a deal if you're hand stitching. I could have probably done this entirely by hand stitching without using any of these rivets, if I wanted to. It's just a pain to do the buckle in this style, because you got to stitch like right up in through here underneath the buckle without, you know, tying your buckle into your stitches. Alright, let's go downstairs and get this stitched up. Okay, the rest of this is mostly going to be just sewing machine work to put it together. As I said before, as always, this can be hand stitched if somebody wants. Just going to be more time punching holes and stitching. So I've got a bunch of pieces here. I've got a pocket that's going to go on the inside of this is the back part of the bag. And then I've got another piece that needs to go on the outside of it, just in case I want to use it as a belt loop. It's going to go on outside and then fold down and stitch like that. So stitch it on here, fold those two wings down, and stitch those on. Now those could interact with the pocket that's supposed to be on the inside. So we need to make sure we do all that in the right order. And in the right order in this case would be to do this one first, stitch it on, and then to stitch the pocket on the inside, because it's just going to stitch around the outside edge and then a couple spots to divide it. And we shouldn't hit this doing that. But if we tried to do this after we did the pocket, then these little bits here would sew the pocket shut right in the middle. So we don't want to do that. This oily leather does not stick real well to anything, so gluing it together or using double-sided seam stick tape or something like that isn't really useful. So I'm probably just going to be like positioning things as I go and just sort of holding them in place. But the pieces I have here, as aforementioned, I've got pocket that goes on the back piece. I got the front piece of the bag. I've got a gusset that's going to attach those two together, wrap all the way around. I've got another piece that's a pocket that goes on the front part of the bag, and it can actually go inside or outside of the pocket. I would say probably in this case I'm going to do it on the outside of the front. And we've got our flap that's going to cover it up. Now the flap is set up to actually be sewn on about a 1/2 inch down from the edge of the top, and then that's going to fold over and stitch over the edge of the flap to give us a nice finished edge up there. And then we're going to punch some holes and stitch around them up in here that are going to be for the straps to actually attach to. We'll punch those out with a bag punch. So that's the plan. We'll see how well it all works out down at the sewing machine. We're going to go right up past the end of it there. Now I'm just going to make some stitches to divide this pocket into smaller pieces. Just kind of a couple different places. I want to make one that's kind of for a short starter, so it's going to be fairly narrow, and I'm going to probably divide the rest of it into a couple pieces, just however you feel like you want to do it for your particular job. There's no set, this is how these pockets have to be, though I probably will, if I make a pattern, put a few lines on it of suggested stitch lines. Do one a similar size on the other side for my priming flask, right down the side of the belt loop, and then leave a fairly good sized one in the center. I'm just kind of going by feel on this. Hopefully I don't hit it. Same thing with our pocket that's going to go on the front of the pouch, under the flap. It'll be for small items, patches and such. Maybe spare flints. Be a good pocket for spare flints probably. Divide this one into about thirds, I think. Want something big enough I can get my fingers into. Okay, and now the gusset piece. This long piece is going to get sewn on all the way around the edge of the front. Right sides together, because we're going to turn it right side out after we've got it all stitched. Let's get a good start on it here. This might have been easier if I put the flatbed on the sewing machine, but I hardly ever put the flatbed on the sewing machine. But I wouldn't be hanging up as much as I go around if I used the flatbed. Now we get down to these corners, we're just going to start pulling stuff together. Be careful, a few stitches at a time, stay in control of it. Don't stitch your fingers. And here I'm using my middle finger and my thumb as kind of a pinch to hold them together, and my index finger is a guide, and I'm actually feeling those edges of the leather to keep them together as it feeds in. But they're not moving towards it. I'm keeping my middle finger up against this plate on the machine so that it doesn't move. It stays in one spot. Because as I mentioned, you don't want to stitch your fingers. I got the gusset on one side of the bag. Let's put it on the other side. Put the pieces right side together and stitch them. Now, I think I'm wanting to work with the gusset up this time so that I can see where to end, pretty much. Start this out. A few back stitches. Now I got our gusset sewn in, back, front, belt loop. It'll work for me. Now I need to put the flap on it. Now, as I mentioned, the flap is actually going to go just a little down from the top edge of the back piece. These are going to go together, the flesh surface of the leather together, wrong sides together would be the cloth term for it. Are inside together. Alright, and then we're going to fold this down and stitch it over those other stitches we just did. Now, best way to do this, I should probably trim this pretty close. So I'm going to grab a pair of scissors real quick and cut that just a little bit more even, a little bit closer, so that I've got plenty of room to pull this down over and cover those stitches. Just don't get close enough that you tear out your stitches. Just fold the leather down and start stitching it on. Again, this could probably be tacked on or glued or something if you weren't using this oily leather like I am. It does add some difficulty to things using this oiled leather sometimes. But anyway, here we go. Okay, I got it off a little bit. Not my best work, but this is for me, so it doesn't much matter. My last step on this is I'm going to punch with a slot punch a long hole on the sides here, and this is going to be where the straps are going to actually loop through and attach. And I'm going to then stitch around these, and that's going to actually do a couple different things for us. Make sure I'm further down. There we are. So that'll be held together, and once it's stitched, that'll keep this flap held down tight up here, so that when you open it, it's going to want to naturally fall back closed, which is a good thing for a shooting pouch, because you want to just be able to get your hand in there, pull something out, and then let it fall back closed so you can go on with your day. That's the general idea of why I attached the flap the way that I did. It also reinforces it for me to use this part as the part that holds the strap on. But then I'm basically going to be stitching around these, and that keeps everything nice and tight so that it'll fold down nice and neat and want to stay closed. Give it more of a weatherproof flap. And anybody that's worried about this hole being here and that being a way that water could get into it, when you stitch around a hole like that, you can create pretty much a watertight seal with leather, just with the force of stitching it around. So I wouldn't be that worried about it. It's probably going to soak into the whole bag first, or get in through these little tiny corners or something like that. Now, I mean, full disclosure, there's definitely some stuff I did wrong putting this together. I got this front pocket in the wrong spot. It's kind of a little cattywampus. I'm going to have to mark on my pattern where it is and make those marks into the leather if I want to do any more of these. And otherwise, there's not too much. I got really close to this and it chewed up the edge of the strap a little bit, but it's good. Again, that was just eyeballing stuff. But for the most part, that's going to be a good little shooting pouch for me. So that'll be in for this one. Thanks for watching.